Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
A few players as well, so we'll hear from them. Brandon Vogel going to join us. We'll talk some special teams and the rundown from Vogue's concerns to a little less concerned with the hierarchy of Nebraska's schedule. And in hour two, we'll check in with Husker legend. His name's on the wall in that north end zone. All Big 12 performer, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, three-time national champion, Super Bowl champ in college football, and Husker Hall of Famer Grant Wistrom. Grant going to be with us in an hour, get his take on the upcoming season, and then Coach Barnett will also join us, Gary Barnett, in hour two. Danny Burke rounds it out with the VSiN Sports Network, some baseball futures from Danny. What's he think of the Padres, their odds? Upping with the addition of Soto, and some national championship long shots or givens. So when it comes to the college football playoff, what do the boys in the desert say about that? What's your value look like money-wise? Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Numbers to dial up. Can email the show, Chris at HailVarsity.com, and give us a find on Twitter at Schmidt_radio. Chris Schmidt, that's me, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel, and give the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle a follow at HVarsity Radio. Also, always follow Hail Varsity. Elijah, we got to figure out first and foremost, and we can ask Brandon Vogel this. It's a week removed from media days, and Nebraska and Northwestern both camping already. But who's the team to beat in the West, right? I mean, that's the question. Most of us have pegged Wisconsin. They're kind of the automatic until they get dethroned, although Iowa did dethrone last year and went to the Big Ten title game. There's Purdue that's getting some love. There's the Nebraska question. Northwestern's gone 2 of the last 4 years, coming off 3-9 seasons. So let's just circle that and start there before we get into some of the Nebraska topics with linebacker rotation, running backs, and, of course, who's going to be playing those special team spots. Many starters, it sounds like, which I'm totally good with. But it's an ongoing question because the West is so wide open. By November, it's usually come down to that 3-horse race where Minnesota was in it. Had Nebraska held the lead. Had Nebraska held the lead against Iowa, Minnesota goes to get squashed by by Michigan this time. Forgive me. Listen, full of assumptions. That's going to be Ohio State and Wisconsin every year, right? And Nebraska per FPI's edging out Wisconsin to get into the Big Ten title game this year. We'll see. But quarterback-wise, of that log jam between Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, I lean Minnesota with Captain Morgan. Running back, running game, offensive line, Wisconsin's been better at reloading than Minnesota on the line of scrimmage. And I think Iowa's just too inconsistent on offense, but they went last year with that quarterback, right? So is their defense going to be even better and their special teams going to be even better this year with some of their young weapons that now have another year under their belt? So I guess I don't have an answer. I'm supposed to have an answer for you. I'm supposed to shout from the mountaintop, this is Nebraska's year. I'm supposed to tell you, here's why Wisconsin will be better with Graham Mertz. They let the wrong quarterback go. The guy they let go to Notre Dame had Notre Dame playing a lot of good football, winning a lot of good football, making plays at quarterback, not just handing off. Don't fumble the ball, son. And then there's Iowa. There's Iowa. So talk to me in 2 weeks. Can I get a stay, Your Honor? Can I get a stay of 2 weeks before I decide who Nebraska and who is the team to beat in the West?
Well, as I look at it right now, this kind of backs up what you say, but as of right now, the team to beat for Nebraska is Nebraska, and by that I mean the mistakes and the issues they've had over the past couple of years. You can't be focused on, like we're trying to stack up against Wisconsin this year, against Iowa. That can't be your focus right now. The focus has to be, we need to clean up the mistakes that have been plaguing us for the past 4 seasons. That's special teams, that's turnovers, that's penalties at inopportune times, that's being able to convert in the red zone. These are the things that if Nebraska just goes and fixes those things, I think they're probably the team to beat in the West. There's been no indication from what you've seen in the Scott Frost era to think that those are going to be cleaned up, aside from the fact that it's new coaches coming in. You have a new special teams coach, a new offensive coordinator. If those guys can get that done within Nebraska's team and fix the issues that have been their persistent pain in the neck over the past 4 seasons, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Nebraska is the team in the West. But just to get back to what I was originally saying, you can't focus on those other teams as of right now. You got to focus on yourself.
Let's hear from Bill Busch, and you mentioned the coaches. Let's hear from the special teams coordinator, Bill Busch, on just how this coaching staff is gelling.
I think we've come together really well. I think from the start, the one thing that helped a bunch was that, that me and Coach Joseph had worked together. We were here when he was a player and I was a GA, and then spending all that time at LSU together, and we were used to high tempo, everyone buying in, how it works. And so that helped us a bunch. So Mickey was able to help lead in those areas for us right there. And then every coach right there, once like I said, you get what you emphasize. And we emphasize how we're going to be early, how hard we're going to work. And every assistant coach matches that energy with it. And so that becomes the overall culture of your team and what's expected. So everyone knows they're going. There's no one on the roster that is off limits as far as who can go out and play.
Good. Great. Nebraska is not, there's nobody in bubble wrap on the sideline. You need somebody, one of 11 on special teams, to go make a tackle. You need an athlete to outdo the other dude trying to block him. And if that means it's your 2 inside linebackers that are going to log 1,000 snaps quarter 1 through quarter 4, so be it. If that's your starting running back or your best third down back option in Ramir Johnson leading the way, so be it. You're not jacking around anymore with Band-Aids. You can't, because it's killed you. That's not subtle. We're going to take guys that are in the running for first team or second team all Big Ten positions at the linebacker spot. Good. And that shouldn't be negotiable. Nebraska needs to get to a point where we mentioned we're going to have Grant Wistrom on. Wistrom, as a true freshman, saw the field. He wasn't starting in front of Dante Jones, but he was good enough to be down on kick coverage. And he thrived at that. And I don't think it's been an issue ever of guys not willing. I hope it wasn't an issue of guys not willing or I'm too good to play special teams. It's probably more the fear of, dude, we can't risk losing said guy. So we'll just throw somebody else out there, and you get a house call performed on you when it comes to a punt return.
And I'm going to say something here. I just said on the line change, but I want to get it on the record of the Hail Varsity show on the official transcript.
The official transcript.
You've been killed for 4 years on special teams. Would you rather risk losing a starter for a couple weeks or for the season, or would you rather risk losing every single week in one phase of the game consistently, game in, game out? Nebraska has lost just about every single loss they've had pretty consistently. They've lost the special teams phase of the game. And
it's been a return.
And while you may lose a starter or two throughout the season, if this is how it goes, to say injury or even for a couple weeks, I think it's better that you're potentially making it a wash on special teams, or special teams a win for you. Winning that phase of the game, I think, is so much more important than having all 22 starters for every single week of the season and keeping them off the field. It just makes more sense because it hasn't been the injuries that have been killing you over the past couple of years. It's been the special teams. Get that fixed first, and then you can cross that next bridge when you get there.
Changes. Bill Busch was asked, how is this year different than last season? And it comes down to attention to detail, and that's not anything. We're not throwing food at Dawson. He was asked to do a job, and by the way, also handle his own position group. This is dedicated specifics and attention with your coordinator. More from Coach Busch.
Probably been some changes. You always have a little bit of your own flair to when things come in. Drill work-wise, if there's one theme that we're trying to have, is that we're trying to have competitive drills, and we use the term game rep. And so the walkthrough phase or three-quarter drill phase does not do us any good. So we want to be able to have them out there and compete. So if we're doing a punt return drill and we're going to try to hold guys up, the guys running down are full speed. All those things of that nature. I know I love Brew. We talked about someone told me the other day about the pancakes and everything. We're not like coming off the third rope and doing like live blindside blocks or anything like that, but we're taking care of each other. But our effort is outstanding, and I really appreciate it for that with what they're doing.
So good for Bill Busch and what he's doing. A thought here, last thought from Bill Busch, and we'll get back to more on special teams. Rahmir Johnson really highlighted today with what his attitude's been and the type of toughness and leadership he's been showing.
Well, Rahmir is and however you want to put it, he's an ascending football player, but he's a core, he's a leader, he's part of core four of everything we do, and he just says yes, sir, and does everything correctly at full speed. I just have so much respect for Rahmir Johnson and where he's at and what we've asked him to do, the different phases as far as running down and being a gunner on the punt team, being on the starting kickoff team, and the starting kickoff return team, and on that phase he's going to be blocking people. So everything that we do, he is a huge part of right there. And that also is a trickle-down effect from the head coach to the position coach, because the running back room is outstanding. That comes down because of what we have from Coach Frost, and it comes down from what we have from Coach Applewhite as far as what he's expected in the room and how he pushes those guys in the room.
So pretty good there. Let's hear from Coach Applewhite, specifics to just where the Nebraska setup is, and Applewhite talking a little bit here about Rahmir on special teams, willing to let a guy that was the team's top back a season ago participate, but there's no restrictions anymore, and that's big.
He's everything. He's the front line, which is the hardest position in football to play. He's on the front line on kick return, where he's got to drop 15 yards, turn his back to somebody, and then take a charge. Rahmir's on that. He's a bullet on punt team. He runs down on kickoff. He's such an overall athlete, and we're able to use his skill set, and not just on offense, but on special teams. Like I said, every running back, to me, the running backs are the best athlete on the field, and we've got to show up on special teams. We can't just be an offensive player.
Got to do more than just what you're comfortable with. And Nebraska's changing that comfort level. Pretty important.
Well, I think it's also great to I know we've mentioned the fact that you want to get the starters out there, but even guys that have made a strong push during fall camp, and maybe they're not going to get the snaps offensively that you'd like them to get. With the running back room, you think, as you look at it right now, 4 or 5 guys could be in the running for significant playing time in that running back room. Well, you're probably not going to get 4 or 5 guys getting consistent carries and consistent snaps throughout the season. So make a difference on special teams in fall camp, and you're going to find a way to get on the field and make a difference. And guess what? That play you make on special teams, that could get you more playing time in the running back room. I think back to Amir Abdullah against Fresno State. Mm-hmm. He wasn't getting very much playing time in the running back room. He goes and houses a kick against Fresno State. I think the coaching staff realized, you know what, maybe we need to get this guy into our game plan a little bit more. And by the end of that season, he still wasn't the bell cow, the starter, but Amir Abdullah was getting more playing time because of that play he made on special teams and multiple plays he made on special teams. And it made the coaches notice him and say, you know what, we got to utilize this guy. And it gives other guys that maybe aren't starters but are close that chance to show themselves on the field.
Well, it's been a 180. It's been an absolute 180.
It's not a job for walk-ons anymore.
No, and that's not a shot at walk-ons, because once upon a time a guy named Janovich killed it, mm-hmm. and still does. in the NFL on special teams, but it's more of it's a commitment.
You want to play a walk-on if the walk-on is the best guy to do that job, not just because he's the walk-on. You want to have the feel-good story to get the walk-on the field. You want to get the best guy at that position on the special teams.
Yeah, it's not disposable anymore. Is the reality of it. We'll talk with Brandon Vogel. Who does he think is the West carrot? Who is Nebraska chasing? Who's everyone in the West chasing? The team to beat in the West. We'll get Vogue's take on that. Also, running back one. Does Nebraska have a guy that can do it all? Maybe not day one in Ireland, but by game 6, perhaps. By the cold November, dare I say November rain, that looms. Does Nebraska have that guy on the roster right now that the running game can lean on? Some thoughts from Brandon Vogel. In about an hour, less than an hour, Grant Wistrom will be with us, and also Coach Barnett. Great to be with you on a Thursday. You can join us at 466-3776, 800-825-5865, and always get to your emails, chris@HailVarsity.com. Hail Varsity continues, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
This segment is presented by Union Bank and Trust.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio listen?
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes, that's awesome.
Back with you at Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery in his football office. It's not quite like Vader's lair, but it's loaded with books and football trinkets. Brandon Vogel with his managing editor, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Can see what Vogues' football office looks like. Can log on to the ESPN Lincoln Twitter handle or ESPN Lincoln Facebook. And our friends up at Omaha at 590 have posted the question and votes for you. Whose stash is better, Barrett Ruud, with a menacing, mean linebacker look, and then Elijah Herbel that looks all happy. That's not a flattering picture of you, Elijah. Vogues, are you thinking of a Barrett Ruud tribute this year? Are you going to grow a stash?
No, I'm definitely not. That's not the right look for me. But I was thinking about this. When you first saw the first photos from fall practice, everybody got a little bit longer look at Barrett Ruud's summer edition. Elijah's been on this corner for a while though, and I mean it's not even close in my mind for that reason. I will say Barrett does have a very nice mustache, but Elijah's been doing this for what, months now?
Yeah, I got tenure on Barrett right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where my vote's going.
You know what Trev says about tenure. I mean, I'm just saying you may have had the stash longer, but not to start a civil war here, but I got to lean old Rudy.
One of these days, my Amazon package with the mustache wax will arrive.
I'll
get the curl, and you'll see. You'll all see the light.
Who was the defensive lineman who had, or was it offensive lineman? I forget, that had the curly mustache a couple years back.
Ross Zuris.
Yeah, good old Ross.
Sioux Line crosser, if you read about the Sioux Line on HailVarsity.com.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My mustache does not hold a candle to his. I can
just don't go there. All right? just keep what you got going. Vogues, okay, the team to beat in the West is who? Who you circling here for 2022?
I mean, I think Wisconsin's a pretty easy favorite in the West. Kind of been the case for quite a while now. Iowa probably shouldn't be that far behind in my mind. It's just there's such a dichotomy between how good that defense is and how little offense they need to win games. But, it's when you play that game, you cut it close a lot. You just have the opportunity for one of those seasons to maybe the breaks just don't go your way. Although it's been a good 3, 4, 5 seasons maybe where Iowa's on a pretty strong run. So I don't think you can discount the Hawkeyes. Even looking at that offense, they need more out of it, but they bring back a lot of their key playmakers. So there's some potential there. Got some holes to fill in the run game. But, yeah, I think it's Wisconsin and Iowa in that order. And then really maybe outside of Illinois and Northwestern, you've got a pretty serious pack there that's going to be pretty fun to sort out.
Now, ESPN FPI has Nebraska as the team to beat in the Big Ten West. I think it's only by like 2 percentage points over Wisconsin. It's a tight battle, but your reaction there, I mean, Nebraska, when you look at the roster on paper, it does look like a team that could be, if not number one, maybe the second most talented team in the Big Ten West. It's just a question of can they finally put it all together?
Yeah, and, I think you look at the Nebraska schedule, and I'm struggling to remember what Wisconsin's is off the top of my head. I seem to recall I don't think they leave Madison in their 3 non-conference games, and it was not a murderer's row from last time, from what I remember from the last time I looked at it. So I think that Nebraska percentage is probably that. Hail Varsity Yearbook. Yeah, I need one of those. Thanks.
It's Wisconsin opens with Illinois State at home, then Washington State at home, and then New Mexico State at home.
Yeah, so New Mexico State's one of the worst teams in FBS college football. So there's that. That Washington State game could get a little bit interesting. Just we'll see how fast Washington State's offense can get up and running. Wisconsin's got a ton to replace on defense, but they've got a really good coach there and a really good track record of that not being an issue. So, yeah, Wisconsin and Nebraska's schedule, I think, probably sets up maybe a little bit better. It has to be based on the cross-division draw, most likely.
It is, because you have Ohio State at Wisconsin at Ohio State the 24th. They're at Sparty the 15th. They're at Northwestern. I bring that up because they don't do well at Northwestern typically. They're also at Iowa. They're also at Nebraska. I mean, that's a pretty daunting road schedule, and they close, Wisconsin does, at Iowa, at Nebraska, Minnesota. So there could be some attrition, here's my point, with Wisconsin. Your point is well made with, hey, until someone takes them down, Wisconsin's always kind of been the preseason favorite. Iowa got that love last year and won the West. But it's swinging back the other way, Vogues, with Nebraska's schedule being a bit more favorable. You still got to go do your work head-to-head.
Yeah, you definitely do. I mean, in some ways, like, we can look at this and say, okay, well, this schedule's better than what Nebraska faced last year. Team rankings had it the eighth with the most difficult schedule in the country last year, and I'm sure everybody else was pretty close to that. So that helps, but that's not been this team's issue. I mean, against the 8th toughest schedule of the year in the country last year, they ended up with a positive scoring differential and played everybody close. Like, we've all covered that. So it's still like the challenge doesn't change for Nebraska. It's like, go out there and do this. Like, maybe there's just more pressure because we can all look at that kind of 6, 7, 8 game lead up to a tough November and say, you better get a lot of work done there because that's your opportunity.
Well, and for what it's worth, none of these people that we think are going to be players in the Big Ten West, aside from maybe Purdue, have an easy November. Iowa has Purdue, and then they have Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Nebraska. Minnesota has Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, and Wisconsin. The only ones that maybe have it easy are Purdue. They open with Iowa, and they close their November with Illinois, Northwestern, and Indiana. So that could be something to watch as we get towards November, is Purdue. If they're in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West, by the time we get to November, they do have a very, very doable close to their season.
They open with Penn State, though.
That is true.
So that is... What type of start do they have? Vogues, the most difficult game on Nebraska's schedule in 2022 is who?
Michigan on the road. I think pretty easily. And we'll see. Like, I think Michigan's going to be pretty good again. Will they be to the level they were last year? I don't know if I'm ready to quite say that yet. And then after that, Oklahoma probably, which Nebraska gets that at home. Wisconsin is in that group, in that discussion. Nebraska gets that at home. FPI, I think, gave Nebraska. I mean, you start talking about 45% win percentage, 55% win probability. It's a coin flip. But Nebraska had over 50% on that because it's played at home, and it's probably earned that. Like, it has moved the ball against these good Wisconsin defenses every game under Frost, and just has come up a little bit short.
Your take on where Oklahoma falls in this hardest game. I mean, Oklahoma is a bit of a wild card this season with a new head coach, a lot of attrition from that roster last season, but they're still Oklahoma. Yeah,
they're still Oklahoma, and I think it's fair to expect there to be some. Transitions are tough. There aren't many that are just seamless. I think Venables is a very good coach, and I think he'll do well there. But getting that game early, I would still put Oklahoma as probably the second toughest game on the schedule. You get it at home, so that helps a little bit, and you get all of the change the Sooners experienced this offseason. That also helps. But it's like you said, it's still Oklahoma. That's a program that's used to winning. That's a talented program still.
Brandon Vogel's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brandon, a quick follow-up to that. Which early season game do you think is a better measuring stick game for Nebraska's fans to gauge how good this team is this year? Is it Northwestern or is it Oklahoma? Northwestern, the Big Ten West foe, you have to beat them if you want a chance at the Big Ten West crown. But Oklahoma is kind of that team. If you beat them, this could be a top 25 type season for Nebraska.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll go with Northwestern just because there's more complications with that. And everyone can see it. Everyone knows Nebraska needs a fast start. Like, you go over there and lose to a Northwestern team that's probably, I don't know what they're going to be. Like, their expectations are what they are this season for a reason. They really hit a valley last year and got to climb back out of that. But they're still a pretty buttoned-up team with a really good coach, with a strong program foundation. You come back from that and lose, it's not going to be fun for a couple of weeks. Beat Oklahoma, and this is the thing, when you talk about is that Northwestern game, how must-win is it? Like, well, if you were to lose, it's going to be ugly. But if you beat Oklahoma 3 weeks later, you're back on track. So because that Northwestern game comes first, because it's just got traveling across the Atlantic Ocean involved, I'll go with that one.
The totally redeem yourself Oklahoma-Nebraska opportunity if things go drunkenly sideways in Dublin. Brandon Vogel's with us at Brandon L. Vogel. Vogues, just about a minute and a half left. Who do you think could emerge for Nebraska for Coach Applewhite as RB1, that back that can truly do it all? Catch, block, run, and rock and roll on special teams.
Yeah, it sounds like he's, pretty happy with his options there. I still kind of lean towards, the back I'm most confident in doing it all right now is probably Ramir Johnson with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Gabe Ervin, we didn't get to see that a ton from him last year, which is the only reason I might give Ramir a slight leg up right now. But Gabe's a great pass protection guy. I don't think it's a lot to say he's probably a pretty good pass catcher too, just we haven't seen it yet. And then, there's a lot of buzz around Anthony Grant at this point, and go back and look at that highlight run he had in the spring game, and it kind of sent it all flooding back to me like, oh yeah, I remember now. This is why he's in the mix at this stage.
If we see about 70 Marlon Lucky-esque checkdowns, but they're good for 7 on first down, you'll probably take it if you're a Nebraska fan.
Go back and look at that Marlon Lucky season. It's one of the more impressive Nebraska seasons I can remember from an offensive player. It's over 1,000 yards rushing and 700 receiving? We'll take that. Just
check it down and move the chains. Brandon Vogel with us, SailVarsity.com and magazine. Managing editor at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Get his book with John Cook, Dream Like a Champion. Vogues will catch up with you this weekend. Thanks for the time today.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
There he is. Brandon Vogel from his football office. We'll hear from Coach Rude and get his thoughts on that linebacker depth. Hail Varsity continues, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, Storm Chasers fans, a 6-game homestand against St. Paul is upcoming, and it all begins on August 2nd. That night is free on the green, which means free berm tickets if you show your FNBO card. The following night is library night, and more whispering because you can't talk loud in the library, which is why I avoid libraries. Dollar Beer Night is August 4th, and that's also Military Appreciation Night, two of my favorite things. You'll see patriotic jerseys and a whole lot of Budweiser. Nothing more American than that. The weekend slate includes fireworks on Friday night, camo jerseys with an in-game jersey auction on Saturday, and a family fun day on Sunday, which includes Bark in the Park, canned food for tickets, and kids running the bases after the game. Get your tickets now before it's too late. We'll see you soon.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back in Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Reminder, we are on the road tomorrow. Kick it off a Friday afternoon road show at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista, kind of between Cabela's and Embassy Suites. Making your way eastward on the interstate, or if you're in Omaha, come see us. Food and drink specials and loaded up. Excited to have the show planned out. We do tomorrow. Some great guests will be there with us. And, Elijah, mustache and all, will be on stage at the Hail Varsity Club. And if you've been there, great. We appreciate you checking it out. But if you haven't yet, man, it's really incredible. Maybe some of you attended the Schick and Nick live recording of their podcast, and that was incredible. And if you didn't get to that, come see us and enjoy a Friday night out. Lots of TVs, lots of cold drinks. The wings are to die for. And I will even vouch for the salads.
Okay.
Oh, what? A salad at a bar? What kind of animal am I? Hey, their salads are phenomenal.
If you do a salad right, it's really not a bad little meal.
The chicken salad with the egg and the croutons, toasted almonds in it. It's well done.
I've been doing a salad every single day for lunch for a little while here now, just because it's easy to meal prep. You can put some good toppings on there. It doesn't increase the waistline, and maybe I'll grab a salad tomorrow. But I've been chained up in the studio.
You're going to shake me down for a steak, is what you're going to do.
No. I might shake you down for a pretzel. Those giant pretzels
did you see
with
the
all
pretzels
the
that Hail Varsity Hail Varsity Club has incredible pretzels. I say incredible a lot, but when I do say it, I mean it.
Yeah, and I've been chained up in the studio, as I said. I haven't gotten the chance to make it up there, and that's been the top thing on my list of seeing pictures and getting the reviews of people I know who have gone. The pretzel I've heard is to die for, and I am looking forward. That's probably the first thing I order tomorrow is I'm going to grab a pretzel.
I will take care of you for the pretzel.
I appreciate that.
At least I can do, right? Let's hear from Coach Rude, as linebacker is a position of strength right now for Nebraska, arguably the most known quantity on defense when you have Henrich and Reimer, two great players that played through a lot. You've got the wear and tear that's a reality in the Big Ten. What type of relief is out there? What type of relief is there for guys that may need a break or that, are going to be on special teams? Henrich will be starting on a special teams unit per Coach Busch. You'll have a guy like Reimer starting on a special teams unit as well. So what kind of work can be done? And this is Coach Rude talking about one of the names that we were really excited to talk to on recruiting day. That's Ernest Hausman of Columbus. And he's a phenomenal athlete, big-time player, but also making a push. You've got Malga Clements that's had a good camp. You've heard that. You've got Snodgrass that's been in the program, really talented player. Now you have Hausman. That's three on top of the two guys you've had that combined for 200 tackles. But here's Rudy a little bit earlier today on Ernest Hausman.
He's been great. He really has. He works hard. Obviously he's a great athlete, a very good player, but he's a better person and a better worker. So that's when your intangibles are better than your athleticism, and your athleticism is already extremely high, you get excited about that.
So the intelligence is there. He's coming in not built like a freshman. He's built like a guy whose body type is ready to go play big boy college football in the Big Ten. The other asset that Ernest brings to the party is what he can do getting after the quarterback. And this was pretty interesting from Coach Root earlier.
I used to have a strength coach named Dave Kennedy. He used to call them shiny cars. Like, I was not a shiny car. Shiny cars look really good. So Ernest looks the part for sure. From an athletic standpoint, I think he's just really a fluid, explosive athlete. I mean, not only is he fast, but he moves well side to side. He can flip his hips, similar to how a pass rusher would flip their hips. Those guys that work that all the time on the edge, defensive linemen that do that all the time. It's really, really natural for him, which is not the case for a lot of linebackers. I've been around a lot of great linebackers that were bad pass rushers. He has a natural feel to rush the passer, which I think in modern football, the versatility is at a premium. You got to be able to do a lot of things, especially at the linebacker position.
So that's upside for Nebraska for sure. And think of the middle linebackers that have been able to. I think of Mike Anderson. Coach Chuck would send him on a blitz. Phil Ellis, for sure. Doug Coleman. Some of those middle linebackers. Carlos Polk. Foreman was an incredible guy, and Foreman was able to play middle and outside. So Nebraska's had some guys in that backing core to get after the quarterback, but not a lot of times do you think of the middle linebacker doing it. I know Levanta'd come on a blitz once in a while, but not that often.
It was that delayed blitz that Levante would bring where he would take a count or two, look like he's dropping into coverage, and then
shoot in.
And then shoot in with that speed that he had, just that hybrid type of backer that he was, that the quarterback didn't stand a chance. His closing speed was incredible getting to the quarterback, and that's the one guy I think of that was just able to get out after the quarterback from the middle linebacker spot. But one thing that I think is just great here listening to Coach Rood is the fact that these names that he's listing, they're all Nebraska kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the exception of Mauga Clemens, mm-hmm. It's Henrich, Omaha Burt kid. Luke Reimer started out as a Kansas kid, but finished his career at North Star. Mm-hmm. North Star. You have Snodgrass, a York standout. Ernest Hausman, a Columbus standout. All of these guys, not only Nebraska, they're Southeast Nebraska kids, and now they're making an impact, which is just, it's been the position where Nebraska has done really well there, maybe even better than any other position group currently on the team in terms of finding that Nebraska talent and developing that Nebraska talent. Linebacker position's been great.
So a little bit longer answer here from Coach Rood, but was asked, and I think Sam McEwen asked the question about rotation. What's your depth look like, and can you get guys a breather that have been really good for you so they don't wear down? Here is Coach Rood.
I thought that was one of the things I probably did a little bit of a poor job with last year is I need to rotate those guys in a little bit more. I think, going through the rigors of a Big Ten schedule to keep those guys fresh throughout the year, you got to take some hits off them, so hopefully you can get something. And what the exact rotation is going to be, I don't know, but at least taking some of the hits off them and getting other guys on the field. And, that keeps the competition fresh, too. If you get a guy breathing down your neck, that's good for everybody. It's hard, but at the same time, it's a necessity because those are the games where it is really critical. Obviously that every play is critical in the Big Ten, but especially when you start playing, the real high level type teams, you got to count on your guys and you got to trust them. And like I said, I think that's something I need to do a better job of this year because it pays off down the stretch.
Listen, you don't want your two best backers not giving maximum snaps against Ohio State, against Michigan, against Sparty. It's a no-brainer. But what you hope to have is guys behind them where there's no drop-off and you can trust them to go in. I think part of the deal was some of the guys behind Henrich and Reimer were maybe about a year away. So that's not on Rood. He's taking the arrow for it, but you got to be able. You got to play guys when they're ready. You can't just throw them in the deep end and expect it to go okay. We'll wind down hour one. 15 minutes away. Grant Wistrom with us. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor. I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. So let me ask you this, Elijah. We get the list from 24/7 Sports, the most important games. In September, you have Notre Dame and Ohio State leading the list. That is a potential national championship elimination ball game for either. With the non-conference standing, that's a sweet matchup. Those two teams and regions hate one another, and good that they're going to settle it on the field. You have Clemson and Wake Forest really don't care, and for it to be number 2, it's a lot of bro hugging for the ACC. Bama, Texas, sure, nostalgia, pupil and teacher. Arkansas and A&M also in there. Wisconsin, Ohio State, end of September. Florida and Tennessee. That used to be the game. And the old ball coach would always derail Peyton. Miami and A&M. A&M's got quite a September. Utah, Florida. Is Utah for real? We'll find out the 3rd of September. Florida State, are they still in a coma or are they a little bit better? And what's LSU and Brian Kelly got up their sleeve September 4th. Oregon, Georgia. Oregon's new coach was right-hand man at Georgia. So that'll be intriguing. Should Nebraska, Oklahoma, does that have an argument? I think it has a bit of an argument. If both teams are undefeated, they both should be, not just from a nostalgia standpoint, but it is your springboard from, okay, Nebraska got a win in the Big Ten over Northwestern, with a lot of pressure on that game, to, okay, you took down Oklahoma, that's a ranked squad. Despite their transition, it's still the brand. It's still a favorite in the Big 12. And that is your launching point, potentially, for Frost this season and beyond, compared to what he's gone through and the underachieving Nebraska's endured. And for Oklahoma, this is going to put out some fears potentially. You go in with a new quarterback, only 3 starters on defense. You go win in Lincoln, and okay, this isn't Riley anymore, but Venables, good hire. Oklahoma brass. I mean, that's to me what it says.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at this list that you just reeled off for us, and there's at least 3 games on here where Nebraska, Oklahoma is at least on par with these other teams. Clemson and Wake Forest. Are you kidding me? Does anyone actually think Wake Forest is going to have a chance in that game?
I think they'll put up some points, but not with this year's Clemson's defense.
That's what I'm saying.
No way.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think Wake Forest can win that game. I mean, Florida and
guess
Tennessee.
What? You'll have to see them again anyway in the ACC title game. I mean, if Wake's as good as advertised.
Florida and Tennessee, it's not 1998 anymore. Like, I don't care about that game, like, really at all. Well, I guess we can see what Napier does with that Florida squad, but I don't care about that game. Florida State and LSU, I mean, that's pretty much the same boat as Nebraska, where you have, I compare LSU to that Oklahoma team. They got a new head coach coming in. You can see what you can do with that. And Florida State hasn't been what they were in years past, but you're waiting for it to pop. That's at least on par with Nebraska and Oklahoma. And then the game, I get them including on the list, but Alabama and Texas, like, that's a win for Texas if they lose by less than 28.
Oh, it's going to be a bludgeoning.
Yeah, so, like, I don't think you can put that one at number 3 in the most important
I'm excited that that's on TV because of how bad Texas will get annihilated. I mean, it's going to be a public execution. Viewers beware. Grant Wistrom up next on Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Schmitty. Want to tell you about a fantastic opportunity to work for a rapidly growing company that also enjoys the benefits earned with having competitive, stable history of work over 20 years. FSC. The FSC Edge. It's a leading technology innovator serving governmental agencies. Expert services helping worldwide patent offices meet strict processing and publishing timelines while delivering exceptional quality. They support some of the world's largest patent offices throughout the U.S. and Europe. That includes the European Patent Office, the German Patent and Trademark Office, and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. The only group of companies worldwide to provide such support to all three of these agencies. Working at FSC, you have a chance to work with fun people with great attitudes and learn about patents. You're not on the phone. You're not customer facing. It's casual dress. And the work environment, it's a new environment with over $2 million in improvements. You have access to generous benefits packages, company support for health and wellness, and you do impactful work on a national scale. Make a difference. Their team's constantly growing, and they're always looking for new people to join their mission. Check out what's available today at jobs@fsc.com.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back into it, hour two. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Husker Hall of Famer and College Football Hall of Famer Grant Wistrom with us. Grant, you missing camp right now? How you doing?
I'm doing great, and I never miss camp. Ever.
Was it a special type of hell this time of year for you guys?
Yeah, it was. And it started more probably about a month before camp. My wife would say I could tell. I didn't need a calendar. I could tell when training camp was coming up because it was just like I just flipped the jerk switch, and just because I knew that was as good as I was going to feel for the next 6-7 months. You know, every day I was just going to feel progressively worse. So, it was just a miserable thought process, but, you know, it's something that you got to go through.
Did it make you more mentally tough, knowing that it was coming and you still went in head first?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, it's part of the deal. I understand why they do training camp. I understand why they send you out to the middle of nowhere to do it. But it doesn't mean it's any fun. It's just part of the job requirement.
Grant Wistrom's with us. Where did you guys camp for the Rams?
We went to Macomb, Illinois, so Western Illinois University.
Okay.
A lovely, lovely, lovely little town in the middle of a bunch of cornfields.
Was there a tavern, or did anyone escape?
Oh no, there was a local bar that it was a smaller town. You know, there was stuff going on, a couple bars, and we found our way to those. But it was crazy. It was basically a 2-lane highway from St. Louis to there. And when camp would get over, it looked like a scene out of Cannonball Run. 16 cars passing one car on a blind hill. I cannot believe nobody died after camp trying to get home.
You just touched on one of my favorite movies growing up. Like, I had Cannonball Run 2 on VHS and Beta. And, oh, yeah. And it was sweet. And we had the unedited version, unbeknownst to my folks. So it was great. So I gotta ask you, what car would you have picked if you were driving in the Cannonball Run? What are you going with?
Oh, man. It's got to be something American. You know, I got to stay American on that, but I don't know, maybe like a Corvette.
You going with Sinatra's Corvette?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you going with?
Well, being a Schmidt, I probably got to go Porsche.
Yeah.
Because there is no substitute. But that's where I'm going. But I like your Corvette pick. Grant Wistrom's with us. Grant, how excited are you? How optimistic are you for Nebraska here in 2022?
I have reserved optimism. I'm an optimistic guy. I think it would take something like the NIL for Nebraska to right itself. And I think they've done a good job manipulating that system. I don't really care for it a great deal, but if it's there, you might as well use it as a tool. So I think they've done a great job trying to get some players in that they might not have normally had a shot at. And, I think this is an important year for everybody on that team. And just hope that this is the year that, we don't have one-loss football games. This is the year we start winning those, one-score football games. This is the year we start winning those games.
Grant, is it as simple as one of those going right in your mind?
Yeah, it is. But I believe it's also an attitude that makes those things go right. When we were there, we talk about it all the time. It did not matter what the score was. We were going to figure out a way to win the game. We were the team on the other side returning the punt to win the game for the touchdown. I mean, that was the mentality that we had. Somebody was going to step up to make that play. So I think it's more than just the ball bouncing our way at the end of those games. It's just a mindset that it does not matter what the score is, how much we're down, how much we're up. It doesn't matter. We're going to find a way to win this football game. And that's more important than the ball bouncing our way.
Grant Wistrom's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, a few minutes. Grant, you guys didn't have a lot of close games. So was there did panic cross your mind when you got into close games, or were you pretty confident in the fact, somebody'd step up or I will step up?
Yeah, there was no panic. There was because the closest game we had during all that, was obviously, I feel like, the Mizzou game.
Mm-hmm.
Zero panic in that football game. That is a game, if you look at the scoreboard, time on the clock, we're probably not supposed to win that game. Zero panic. It was just, we knew to our core, somebody on the team was going to step up and make a play. And it wasn't Scott, it wasn't Amon, it wasn't Jason, it was Matt Davidson and Chevin Wiggins.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys that, and I'll say it to Matt's face, only play he made all year. But, but when the time came, they were ready. They were prepared, and they stepped up and accepted the challenge. And it was because they had been paying their dues every day in practice, waiting for their opportunity to get their number called. They weren't superstars. They weren't heroes, but they paid their dues every day in the anticipation that they were going to be in that spot one day, and they would have the skills to make that play.
Well, it speaks to T.O. and you guys making sure, and the guys themselves, they were ready, right? They were always ready.
Yep, always.
Grant, let's talk about a special personality, and I think he could have a breakthrough year, Garrett Nelson. He's been vocal. He's also been the guy that showed up every day. Have you had a chance to speak much with him at all? And if so, what's been the messaging, if you care to share? He's a guy that is going to try and will this team to do much better than they've done in the past.
Yeah, I've met Garrett on a couple of occasions. Really respect his play. Respect the leader he's becoming in the locker room. But as far as a lot of in-depth conversations with him, that hasn't been there.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing stuff like guys are shaving their heads again, like that in reality isn't a huge deal. All right, they shave their heads, but it's just like that. But it is, because they are removing their own personal identity. Garrett had good looking long hair. He doesn't anymore. He's not, they're a team now and not a bunch of individuals out there, and so shaving your head isn't a big deal, but it kind of is a big deal, man. We're coming together. We're a team. Nobody's above this. We're all the same. We're all in this together, and if he's leading the charge and he's getting the guys to do that, that's a big step in the right direction, because I feel like so much of college football, and especially on a team that's struggling to find its identity, that's struggling to find wins, there's so much individuality on that team. And you can't have individuality on a football field. You have to, guys can have their own personalities, but they still have to come together and play as a unit and play for each other if you want to have team wins. And if you can get that, then the team wins come. And then it's not so big that I stand out on my own because we're standing out as a group. And like I said, it's not a big deal that they're shaving their heads, but it is a big deal that they're shaving their heads.
No, little things. That's one thing that I've appreciated about Coach Chinander's side of the ball. The defense, Grant, seems to keep getting better and better. And they've lost some guys, but it feels like they'll be able to reload a little bit. They've had to do a lot of heavy lifting. I know it's a team effort, but the defense has kept them in a lot of ball games.
Yeah, but if you got a side of the ball that needs to have a strong back or strong shoulders and carry it, it needs to be the defense, because that's the side of the ball that's just got to be like, screw this, guys. We're going to find a way to win this game and get it done, or we're going to get this stopped. And it's just the mental toughness that comes with that. And you have to have that on defense. And you know, if you're going into a game that you're going to carry a large portion of the work, you go into that game with a chip on your shoulder, and that's how you have to play defense, with a chip on your shoulder.
Grant Wistrom's with us. Grant, do you recall the moment you made the jump from the south locker room to the north locker room?
I do. It was a big day, man. It was, and actually then it was the north locker room to the south locker room.
Thank you. Forgive me.
But, yeah, hey, that's all right. We got to go way back here, Schmitty. No, man, that was like, that was as big a day to me as when I'm sitting at training camp in St. Louis and I'm eating lunch with Steve Bono and Joe Phillips, guys that I've been watching play football for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. You know, it's milestones in your walk through this, and that's definitely one that I'll never forget.
Who alerted you? How are you signaled? And talk about the reception.
You know, I wish I could remember all the details of it. I'm sure I probably just walked in and none of my stuff was in my locker, and the fourth graduate assistant equipment manager said I'm down at the other end, so I probably slowly shuffled and nervously walked down to the other end of the field. And I would admit, I really wish I could remember more of it, Smitty. I really wish I could, but it just being a part of that and knowing, like, all right, I can do this. I can play with these guys. And obviously they think I can do it early, was huge to me. I never wanted to redshirt. I know at that time, 99% of the guys that came to Nebraska as freshmen redshirted, but that was never an intent of mine. And just, I went out there the first day I was on the practice field and just, you know what, if they're going to redshirt me, I'm going to force their hand and make them make a decision. I'm not going to make it easy on them.
Grant Wistrom's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. How do you think Scott navigates this year? Do you think he's able to exhale after Ireland, or do you think it's going to be a constant grind all season of pressure for him, dealing with it?
I think I would want to feel the pressure all year. Mm-hmm. I would want to not let up on the throttle at all. It's just, you just put your foot on the gas and go all year long. You know, he's done a great job, had some great hires, worked the NIL system, brought in some good players. So the pressure's there on him, but Scott's going to put the pressure on himself. There'll be no let up. He knows, this is, I don't know if it's a make it or break it year for him, but, we're kind of heading in that direction. And I know more than just keeping his job, he wants to do right by the program and turn it around. It's more important to him than just a paycheck. Mm-hmm. So I think Scott, no matter what happens in Ireland, Scott's going to keep the pressure on himself and on the team all year long.
Grant Wistrom, Husker great Hall of Famer. We'll let you go on this. Dick Vermeil going into the Hall of Fame this weekend in Canton. Your reaction? Are you going to be there for his induction?
No, he invited me to head out there, and it's killing me that I can't make it. I love Coach Vermeil like I love Coach Osborne. I got to say, I think I'm one of the luckiest players to ever play pro football ever, just with the quality coaches that I've been able to be around, from my high school coaches to my college coaches to my NFL coaches. I've had a lot of them, and I can count the number on two fingers that I didn't respect as a player and felt like they poured more into me as a player than I gave back to them on the field. But Coach Vermeil, man, he's a real one. I love that guy. He still calls. He still writes. And I know he loves me like Coach Osborne loves me. And when you've got a guy that cares for you like that, there's nothing you won't do for him. And I'm sorry I'm not going to be in Canton with him. But, man, what a well-deserved honor for a guy that's given his entire life to football and just cared for his players all the time. So happy for him, so thankful for him, and I'll be watching for him. And I'll probably, Dick's going to cry. That's a given.
Yes.
I mean, that's going to happen. There's a good chance I'll be crying with him, man, because he sure deserves it.
That's so. I was doing a little research, and Grant, I mean, he's 85. He still looks in his 70s. The guy just cranks weightlifting. I mean, he works out like 6 days a week. He's pretty yoked. He has more. I pray that when I'm 50, I have as much energy as he does at 85. That guy never stops. He and his wife, Mrs. Vermeil, they're both amazing human beings. I love them both. The guy never slows down. He's got just a vibrance about him that you just want to be around. I can't say enough good things about him. Well, that's awesome that he's headed to the Hall. Grant, you're the best, man. Great to spend a few minutes with you. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure, Smitty. Have a great day, man.
Grant Wistrom, Husker Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer. Great insight there. His thoughts on 2022. And the topic of shaving the head. It's a subtle big deal. Good to hear from Grant. That'll get posted on the Hail Varsity Radio SoundCloud, the full interview if you want to get caught back up. Reminder about buckling up. Using your seatbelt saves lives and prevents injuries only if properly worn. Be sure to buckle up. This message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Thoughts on Nebraska's schedule and delegation as a head coach to an offensive coordinator. Gary Barnett next on Hail Varsity. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price. That means that you can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio listen?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We say hi to the Hall of Fame coach, Gary Barnett, with us. Northwestern, Colorado, Hall of Fame career at Missouri. Coach, how's the week been?
It's been hot here, Chris, but it's a good week overall. Football practice started, and that always makes it a little more exciting and fun. And I go to practice every morning and just sort of check them out. They didn't start till Tuesday, so they've been 2 days in just helmets, and now I think today's the first day in shoulder pads and helmets. So it's it's an exciting time, but we're a lot like you guys in that nobody knows what to expect. We're not picked at anywhere close to the top, and playing the respect card on at practice and that sort of stuff. So two very similar situations, I'd say.
That unknown can be good or it can be fearful, depending what fan you're talking to. And how did you treat that unknown as a coach? You to me are optimistic, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably drifted into here's what I think we can be, and it can be pretty good in some areas. Did you take that approach?
Well, I think you have confidence in yourselves. You have confidence in your players. And once the season starts, you tune out all the noise, and you get the players to tune out the noise, and they'll do that. And especially during camp. Camp's a grind, It's a fun grind. They don't listen to any TV. They don't watch any shows. It's a grind. And so you're really just focused on the football piece of it and your team and your job. And, I think a lot of it depends on how many seniors you have, how much experience you have. If you've got a good number of seniors, then they're sort of, as they say now, coach-fed and player-led. And it's, they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But everybody's got great spirits to start, and everybody's got great optimism. And then it comes down to how they handle the adversities of camp, and which usually means injuries, but, things that pop up. And so, if you got a good number of seniors, then, all that stuff sort of gets handled. If you don't, then it's more of a grind for coaches, because coaches have to do the leading. So it's pretty interesting. It's fun. It is. You're really growing together.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, I want to get your take as we talk Nebraska's schedule, and before we get into game week and kickoff, where do you rank the Northwestern game for Nebraska on a difficulty scale? And I look at Nebraska's schedule, their home games against some named teams, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, all come to Lincoln in a grander scale. You're at Purdue, you're at Michigan, you're at Iowa, you have Illinois, you have Indiana that are going to be in Lincoln, and you haven't fared well against Purdue or Illinois the last few years. You haven't fared well against anybody, really. And then you have that neutral site international game against Northwestern. I put that game as top 3 most difficult for Nebraska, just because of the pressure surrounding the game, getting off to a good start, and also, the potential distraction. How tricky can kick off week 0 be, do you think, for Nebraska?
Yeah, it can be real tricky. It'd be trickier if you were playing somebody that had won 9 last year instead of just won 3 like Northwestern did. So 2 very similar teams. And so it is a win. It's a game you have to go win if you're Northwestern. If you're, either one, but especially if you're Nebraska, you've got to go win this game. And everybody in that room should know that you have to avoid the distractions. You as a team and as coaches, you have to try to control that, but you have to avoid the distraction, go on a mission. This is not a fun trip. This is a trip to get it all started. And so I think it's a pretty critical game. It's probably as critical as any game they're going to play all year.
Coach, what either road venue or team that came to Chicago was a thorn for you, and what team do you think, as you look at the Big Ten in 2022, could make some noise or be a problem? There's the obvious names, but what's one that might be under the radar?
Well, I think when you look at the West, and you got 4 teams that won 9 games last year.
Yeah.
And really they all should be as good as they were last year. I think that's your grind right there. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin was always a very difficult game for us, and Iowa was a very difficult game for us. And of course Ohio State, but you guys don't have to play Ohio State. You got Minnesota. You got Michigan this year, but not Ohio State, which, there may not be much difference this year. But, for us, the Wisconsin game was always tough, and Iowa was always tough.
Coach, going to talk and ask about delegation. You're a head coach. You're an offensive guy. You also had a coordinator. Was there ever a time in your career where you just called plays as a head coach, or did you always have a coordinator?
No, I always had a coordinator as a head coach. And I was highly involved. But the both times that I became a head coach, I went to an offense that I didn't know the ins and outs of. So when I went to Northwestern, we went to spread, one back, and my background was not in that at all. So I had to I had two coaches that had both coached in it heavily and coordinated with it. So I turned it pretty much over to those guys. And then, of course, after 2 years, I said, this isn't working. And so then I got involved, and we changed and went to more of a ball control. In order to win that league, we could not be a spread team and do all the things we were doing at that time. And so we went to ball control. When I came back to Northwestern, or to Colorado, we went to the West Coast. And the West Coast, there was a guy on staff here that knew it, and knew it really well. And so Tom Cable, and so I kept Tom as the coordinator, and then everybody on our staff learned it. And that was good. We stayed with it the whole time.
Was it easy to delegate, or I mean, you were the man running the show? How much did you shadow the delegation? Is the best way to ask.
Well, the proper answer is you should turn it over to them and let them go. But the real answer is no. I probably dabbled in it too much. I mean, it was really hard to turn it over because, I had a system and I knew it inside and out. And when X happened, then I did Y. When Y happened, I did W. And I didn't see that in these other systems, and it drove me crazy. So, but eventually, especially with Sean Watson, I was able to just totally turn the reins over to him and trust he and our staff with that offense, and that one became really easy to do. The other offense was tougher.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, last thought here. You've got a list of some of the most important games in September. This list from 24/7. It's got Notre Dame, Ohio State listed number 1, Bama and Texas 3, A&M, Arkansas 4, Wisconsin, Ohio State is there, Oregon, Georgia, Florida State, LSU, Utah, and Florida. Also Miami and A&M. There's also Tennessee and the Gators. Nebraska, Oklahoma not on there, but Clemson and Wake Forest come in. What game? I just listed a billion games off to you, but what game are you kind of cranked up to see?
I throw Penn State, Purdue in there.
Yeah, that's the opener.
I think that's an opener, and that's a big game. I think Cincinnati, Arkansas is a huge game. For Cincinnati, we really have a pretty good list of games going down there. Oregon, Georgia, I think that one's huge. But, I think probably the biggest one is what they mentioned is I think Ohio State, Notre Dame is probably as big as any of them and maybe the biggest.
Friday night games with the expansion of the Big Ten. Do you anticipate continued Friday night football, or does that go away? What's your take on it?
Oh, I think it's going to stay. I think TV is looking for TV times that will grab folks, and I think Friday night football is probably here to stay. As much as I don't really agree with it, because as a former high school coach, I always thought, Friday nights were for the high schools. But that stuff went away 20 years ago, and so I think now it's just a matter of habit that people are going to tune in and watch a good college football game on a Friday night.
I mean, do you throw Rutgers out in California for an 8 Eastern, but I guess that'd be a 5 Pacific kick? I mean, do you do the coast to coast matchups for Friday? Do you save those?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Give yourself an extra day. If I were thinking that through, I think that's probably a pretty good idea. If that comes to fruition, as it looks like it will, but yeah, I think that's how you do it, and but that gives you a shorter day on the preparation end, and so it's you got to sort of weigh the difference, but depends on the time of the year. If it's later in the year, I think that preparation time isn't quite as important as it would be early in the year. So, but I do think that's a real possibility.
Just get me out to La La Land in November. I'm happy. Yeah, get me some good weather.
Yeah, have Rutgers go there in November. I think they might enjoy it.
They'd take it. Gary Barnett with us, Hall of Fame coach. Coach, hit him far and straight this weekend. Thanks for a few minutes with us.
All right, Chris, great being with you.
Good to hear from Coach Gary Barnett with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Grant Wistrom kicked off hour 2. Podcast will have the whole show, so check that out. Brandon Vogel with us earlier. Plenty of thoughts on special teams, the running back room, and we heard from Barrett Ruud on linebacker depth with what he's trying to do and forge forward behind Henrich and Reimers. Good rundown today, post-practice from coordinator Bill Busch as well, with how he wants to set things up. We'll talk a little gambling next as Danny Burke will join us. He's with VSiN Sports Network. Some baseball postseason thoughts with the trade deadline and some Big Ten futures on the way with Hail Varsity Radio.
There's nothing better than enjoying some sun with a drink and hot dog in hand, taking in America's pastime. Whether you're here for the baseball or the entertainment that comes with it, Werner Park is the place to be. The Omaha Storm Chasers have a handful of home games remaining, so get your tickets before it's too late. Give yourself something to look forward to as the summer winds down. Don't miss this opportunity to make lifelong memories with family and friends.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio listen?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We say hi to the Hall of Fame coach, Gary Barnett, with us. Northwestern, Colorado, Hall of Fame career at Missouri. Coach, how's the week been?
It's been hot here, Chris, but it's a good week overall. Football practice started, and that always makes it a little more exciting and fun. And I go to practice every morning and just sort of check them out. They didn't start till Tuesday, so they've been 2 days in just helmets, and now I think today's the first day in shoulder pads and helmets. So it's it's an exciting time, but we're a lot like you guys in that nobody knows what to expect. We're not picked at anywhere close to the top, and playing the respect card at practice and that sort of stuff. So, two very similar situations, I'd say.
That unknown can be good or it can be fearful, depending what fan you're talking to. And how did you treat that unknown as a coach? You to me are optimistic, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably drifted into here's what I think we can be, and it can be pretty good in some areas. Did you take that approach?
Well, I think you have confidence in yourselves. You have confidence in your players, and once the season starts, you tune out all the noise, and you get the players to tune out the noise, and they'll do that. And especially during camp. Camp's a grind. It's a fun grind. They don't listen to any TV. They don't watch any shows. It's a grind. And so you're really just focused on the football piece of it and your team and your job. And, I think a lot of it depends on how many seniors you have, how much experience you have. If you've got a good number of seniors, then they're sort of, as they say now, coach-fed and player-led. And it's, they do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But everybody's got great spirits to start, and everybody's got great optimism. And then it comes down to how they handle the adversities of camp, and which usually means injuries, but, things that pop up. And so, if you got a good number of seniors, then, all that stuff sort of gets handled. If you don't, then it's more of a grind for coaches, because coaches have to do the leading. So it's pretty interesting. It's fun. It is. You're really growing together.
Gary Barnett with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, I want to get your take as we talk Nebraska's schedule, and before we get into game week and kickoff, where do you rank the Northwestern game for Nebraska on a difficulty scale. And I look at Nebraska's schedule, their home games against some named teams, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, all come to Lincoln. In a grander scale, you're at Purdue, you're at Michigan, you're at Iowa, you have Illinois, you have Indiana that are going to be in Lincoln, and you haven't fared well against Purdue or Illinois the last few years. You haven't fared well against anybody really. And then you have that neutral site international game against Northwestern. I put that game as top 3 most difficult for Nebraska just because of the pressure surrounding the game, getting off to a good start, and also, the potential distraction. How tricky can kick off week 0B, do you think, for Nebraska?
Yeah, it can be real tricky. It'd be trickier if you were playing somebody that had won 9 last year instead of just won 3 like right. Northwestern did. So 2 very similar teams, and so it is a win. It's a game you have to go win if you're Northwestern. If you're either one, but especially if you're Nebraska, you've got to go win this game, and everybody in that room should know that you have to avoid the distractions. You as a team and as coaches, you have to try to control that, but you have to avoid the distraction, go on a mission. This is not a fun trip. This is a trip to get it all started. And so I think it's a pretty critical game. It's probably as critical as any game they're going to play all year.
Coach, what either road venue or team that came to Chicago was a thorn for you, and what team do you think, as you look at the Big Ten in 2022, could make some noise or be a problem? There's the obvious names, but what's one that might be under the radar?
Well, I think when you look at the West, and you got 4 teams that won 9 games last year,
yeah, and
really they all should be as good as they were last year. I think that's your grind right there. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin was always a very difficult game for us, and Iowa was a very difficult game for us. And of course Ohio State, but you guys don't have to play Ohio State. You got Minnesota. You got Michigan this year, but not Ohio State, which, there may not be much difference this year. But, for us, the Wisconsin game was always tough, and Iowa was always tough.
Coach, going to talk and ask about delegation. You're a head coach. You're an offensive guy. You also had a coordinator. Was there ever a time in your career where you just called plays as a head coach, or did you always have a coordinator?
No, I always had a coordinator as a head coach. And I was highly involved. But the both times that I became a head coach, I went to an offense that I didn't know the ins and outs of. So when I went to Northwestern, we went to spread, one back, and my background was not in that at all. So I had 2 coaches that had both coached in it heavily and coordinated with it. So I turned it pretty much over to those guys. And then, of course, after 2 years, I said, this isn't working. And so then I got involved. And we changed and went to more of a ball control. In order to win that league, we could not be a spread team and do all the things we were doing at that time. And so we went to ball control. When I came back to Northwestern, or to Colorado, we went to the West Coast. And the West Coast, there was a guy on staff here that knew it and knew it really well. And so Tom Cable, and so I kept Tom as the coordinator, and then everybody on our staff learned it, and that was good. We stayed with it the whole time.
Was it easy to delegate, or you were the man running the show? How much did you shadow the delegation? Is the best way to ask.
Well, the proper answer is you should turn it over to them and let them go. But the real answer is No, I probably dabbled in it too much. I mean, it was really hard to turn it over because, I had a system and I knew it inside and out. And when X happened, then I did Y. When Y happened, I did W. And I didn't see that in these other systems, and it drove me crazy. So, but eventually, especially with Sean Watson, I was able to just totally turn the reins over to him and trust he and our staff with that offense, and that one became really easy to do. The other offense was tougher.
Gary Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, last thought here. You've got a list of some of the most important games in September. This list from 24/7. It's got Notre Dame, Ohio State listed number 1, Bama and Texas 3, A&M, Arkansas 4, Wisconsin, Ohio State is there, Oregon, Georgia, Florida State, LSU, Utah, and Florida. Also Miami and A&M. There's also Tennessee and the Gators. Nebraska, Oklahoma not on there, but Clemson and Wake Forest come in. What game? I just listed a billion games off to you, but what game are you kind of cranked up to see?
I throw Penn State, Purdue in there.
Yeah, that's the opener.
I think
that's
an opener, and that's a big game. I think Cincinnati, Arkansas is a huge game. For Cincinnati, we really have a pretty good list of games going down there. Oregon, Georgia, I think that one's huge. But, I think probably the biggest one is what they mentioned is I think Ohio State. Notre Dame is probably as big as any of them and maybe the biggest.
Friday night games with the expansion of the Big Ten. Do you anticipate continued Friday night football, or does that go away? What's your take on it?
Oh, I think it's going to stay. I think TV is looking for TV times that will grab folks, and I think Friday night football is probably here to stay. As much as I don't really agree with it, because as a former high school coach, I always thought, Friday nights were for the high schools. But that stuff went away 20 years ago, and so I think now it's just a matter of habit that people are going to tune in and watch a good college football game on a Friday night.
I mean, do you throw Rutgers out in California for an 8 Eastern, but I guess that'd be a 5 Pacific kick? I mean, do you do the coast to coast matchups for Friday? Do you save those?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Give yourself an extra day. If I were thinking that through, I think that's probably a pretty good idea. If that comes to fruition, as it looks like it will, but yeah, I think that's how you do it, and but that gives you a shorter day on the preparation end, and so it's you got to sort of weigh the difference, but depends on the time of the year. If it's later in the year, I think that preparation time isn't quite as important as it would be early in the year. So, but I do think that's a real possibility.
Just get me out to La La Land in November. I'm happy. Yeah, get me some good weather.
Yeah, have Rutgers go there in November. I think they might enjoy it.
They'd take it. Gary Barnett with us, Hall of Fame coach. Coach, hit him far and straight this weekend. Thanks for a few minutes with us. All
right, Chris, great being with you.
Good to hear from Coach Gary Barnett with us on Hail Varsity Radio. Grant Wistrom kicked off Hour 2. Podcast will have the whole show, so check that out. Brandon Vogel with us earlier. Plenty of thoughts on special teams, the running back room, and we heard from Barrett Ruud on linebacker depth with what he's trying to do and forge forward behind Henrich and Reimers. Good rundown today, post-practice from coordinator Bill Busch as well, with how he wants to set things up. We'll talk a little gambling next as Danny Burke will join us. He's with VSiN Sports Network. Some baseball postseason thoughts with the trade deadline and some Big Ten futures on the way with Hail Varsity Radio.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity. And I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Thursday, you are invited. You get a cold beer, you get a tasty burger, or whatever you like at the Hail Varsity Club as we are in La Vista tomorrow. Kick it off, a run of Friday shows leading up to Ireland at the Hail Varsity Club. The 23rd of August, they're going to have Day by Day. They'll have a screening there. You can log on hailvarsityclub.com and get your tickets for that. But Elijah and I are roadieing. Are we going to ride together? That too weird?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Might as well.
We'll do paper, rock, scissors. Who gets to fill the tank? Even though gas has decreased in price for 50 straight days.
Maybe that's what our new steak and a beer bet will be this year. It's who fills the gas tank next Friday.
Pay for gas? Not it. Dude, I hear you. And all the trips to Omaha for baseball this year for junior. You're just, it's fine, whatever. No, I can't wait. In all honesty, come see us, enjoy. We're there 4 to 6. Hopefully you had a chance to go out to the live Schick and Nick show a few weeks back. That was just incredible from what it looks like. And we invite you out. So if you're in Omaha, come see us. If you're in Lincoln, totally invited up, and tell some buddies and check it out. Tomorrow on the show, we'll have Bill Dolman. He'll join us from the People's Republic of Denver. He'll join us from there. It's not too long till Billy D relocates here to Nebraska. So we will either kidnap him or just politely ask him, with his schedule permitting, to at least bring us beers during the show. He'll bring us those beers and throw them in our face. But no, Bill Dolman tomorrow. Jacob Padilla going to join us. Jacob had some great stuff today on hailvarsity.com with Nebraska's post-practice today. We'll get his take as the season looms. And Uncle Jerry is back with us. Coach Jerry DiNardo, Big Ten Network. BTN was on site today to check out Nebraska's practice. They're on their way back to Chicago now to see Northwestern's morning practice. So we'll get Coach live tomorrow, either in the 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock hour, to get his thoughts. But Coach shared a little bit of thoughts and some insight on Twitter. And it comes down to special teams, the emphasis. He liked the practice today. We'll get a little bit more in-depth from him on what specifically he liked. But it's going to be quarterback play. It's going to be turnovers. It's going to be special teams that allows Nebraska to have a breakthrough season this upcoming year. Yeah,
plenty of good guests tomorrow, though. I'm looking forward to all that. But really looking forward to talking with Jacob, because he decided to take his afternoon and cook me on Twitter.
Now Jacob will have a steel chair in each hand and come off the top rope.
Yeah, because our friends up in Omaha, 590 ESPN, put up a Twitter poll: whose mustache is better, Elijah's or Coach Rude's? And right now the numbers look like 85% are saying Coach Rude, 15% are saying Elijah Herbel.
How many times have you had friends and family vote the 15%?
Well, this is what Jacob said is he did the math on how many votes we had and what the percentage were, and he said, you have 3 votes so far, which is honestly more than I expected. And that one hurt me.
It's nothing against your mustache, but Rudy's mustache is good.
And it was a bad picture of mine. We'll go with that.
Yeah, it didn't help. Didn't help. Talk to you tomorrow from the Hail Varsity Club at 4. See ya.
A Hurrdat Media Production.